We are live. I have sent out the link to all guests. That's Laurie in the chat there. Let me see if I can ping her.
Yeah, I sent that to him.
We have no Kristin yet. We have no Terry yet. And I know Laurie is around. Craig, unfortunately, couldn't make it this week and sends his apologies. He's not been very well. I think it's strawberry poisoning myself. But we do have Bill, we do have Manny, and we do have Ben, and I'm sure we'll have some more jumping in very soon. So let's kick off in traditional fashion. Bill, what have you been up to this week?
I spent a good part of the week in Las Vegas at PubCon, and I gave a presentation. I got a chance to talk to lots of people whom I haven't seen in person for a few years, in many cases, and it's nice to see people face to face. You know, I work remotely, so the people who work with me, I don't see. I don't see face to face. So the people I see every day on Facebook and Twitter, I consider those people are my and Google Plus. I consider those people to be my coworkers because of the people I do see every day.
Yeah,
Even though we
absolutely.
don't work for the same people, right?
I must admit, I don't see any of my clients every day, and to be honest, even the people I work with, it tends to be kind of ad hoc. So at the moment, no, there's nobody in my business that I see every day. I kind of like that. I kind of like having lots of different projects on the go and no 2 days being at all the same. So
we're up to 13 employees now, and I get to see almost every single one of them at least once a week. all via Hangouts.
Did you tell number 13 that statistically that means he's going to be the one, unlucky number 13, he's going to be the first one to die in the office?
Oh, absolutely. He's going to have a red shirt, as a matter of fact. Yes.
Yeah. I guess, Terry, you kind of must be more akin to me. Very few people that you see daily, more.
Yep, just the three of us, me, myself, and I.
Yeah, that way you always know that you're getting good company. That's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Very few arguments, but they still happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting story. I think that I've had with quite a few people on Plus, and that is how we each individually run our businesses, right? Like, even though we're up to about 11 people, I mean, it's like, but we're all virtual. We don't have a centralized office. We don't need a centralized office. I mean, we've got Hangouts and we've got the technology to do it, so we don't need the overhead. And, it's like, Terry, I mean, it's like, is it just you, or do you have, like, people that work with you on multiple projects?
No, there's just me. But I can do almost everything. So if I need someone, I got a big Rolodex, and I can always get the best people, right?
There you go.
That's kind of, to me, that's the disadvantage of working with an agency. You're only as good as the person they have doing that job. Whereas I can say, give me a budget and I'll get you someone to fill it. So if you want the best, I can get the best, right? A lot of times with an agency, you're getting the best they got, and that might not always be as good as if you split the job up, right?
Depends on the kind of agency, because you can have people that work for you, and then of course you can have people like yourself, for instance, if I wanted to hire out SEO work. Although I'd probably just pass it to you.
My company is very much like that. I am the sole permanent member of staff at the moment. I have a big Rolodex, and I have particular people in mind for each job. But I'm one of those ones, there's a lot of people who call themselves a specialist. I am very fussy in who I call a specialist. If you are an SEO copywriter, I expect you to be a better copywriter than me, because I'm a general SEO, and I don't write that shabbily. And if you're a specialist in analytics, I expect you to know more about analytics than me. So my idea of specialists are real specialists. They need to be experts in their field, and I tend to only have 3-4 names that I will call up in any one particular specialization.
Yeah, it's just like a minute.
Find those people stick to just what they're really good at too, because that's all they really want to work on.
One of the things I hated about agencies was, I'm going to the client meetings. I'm setting up the strategies. I'm deciding what's going to happen. But of course, I don't control the time. I don't control the budget of time within the company. And so we get the contract, and it's assigned to one of the junior SEOs. And yeah, I can supervise him as much as I am able to, given that I'm heading off to other sales meetings that week and I've got other things to do. I'm usually checking in for a half an hour in the morning, and another half hour if he calls me, and half an hour at the end. It's not ideal. It's not what the clients sometimes were buying, was how I felt about it. It was good, and I made sure that everything was done to my standard as much as I could, but sometimes that was retroactively making sure it was fixed rather than actually having quality control in the first place.
Mm.
So one of the things I wanted to do with my company was, look, you come to me, you get me. I do the work. If somebody else is doing the work, you'll know who, and they are a specialist who is better at that than me. That's it. That's the standard.
Well, if you're going to be providing an A service, you have to have A-class people, basically. I mean, I remember when I had my SEO agency, which was, I had that for about 10 years. It was one of the reasons why I shut down the agency, is because at that time couldn't find people, A, that you could trust, and B, that knew what they were really talking about. So it wasn't a very scalable business. There was definitely no exit plan for the business because it relied 100% basically on me. And, so it's like if you're going to have that kind of business, like you have, Ammon, like you have, Terry, then you know that there's pretty much no exit plan for your company. And you're going to run it for yourself, and you're going to have fun, and it's going to be a passion, and it's going to be a really great income stream. But that's the problem, though, too, is that if you don't have people that you can trust and delegate to internally as a company, then there is no exit.
Yeah,
I agree, Ben. Most of the cleanups that I've done were with agencies because they're always trying to scale, and scaling link building is where most people got into trouble with Penguin. They got no idea really how to scale it, right? They knew how to spam, but they didn't know how to scale. Well, it's pretty evident when you look at it, Bill. You should see some of the stuff I've encountered.
I've had to do some work internally at an agency or two that I worked with where I had to clean up behind people. And I gave them suggestions on how not to do what they were doing when they were link building. In the future, because it was a waste of time for them to do that and then me to go clean up after them.
That's why I like the social media and the content business, which is what we do, is because it is fully scalable. Although I see, like you're saying, Terry, I see a ton of problems where we have customers where they have bad link building processes. They've got tons of thin content. They've got one customer right now that He's been running his site for over 10 years. He's one of the leading dentists on the East Coast in New York. And he's got well over 4,000 pages of thin content. We're talking about literally like a thumbnail image, and that's the entire page with like a half a sentence. But
The folks I'm working with now do a much better job of creating content that people want to link to. And it attracts links. It really does.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah, people really think about it. The changes in Google, not in just what they're looking for in the way of linkable content, but also they've changed. Like when I started and you wanted to raise your rank, you didn't go and build links other places. You just added more pages to your own website. And back in the old days, it didn't really matter what was on it. You got credit just for building pages.
Yep.
And this is how you create doorways, right?
Right. That's how they got started on that. That was probably a big contributing factor. But now that's no longer true. And it's hard to get people to understand that they don't reward that anymore.
Yeah, I think a lot of SEO companies, their exit strategy isn't actually a strategy, it's a prayer. They hope that somebody's going to offer them a lot of money for their company one day. But they haven't actually planned what will make somebody do that or who. And again, you know, it's this thing we keep coming back to. You've got to know your market. If you are building a company to sell, this is something that you have to do. You have to treat your company itself as a product, and you have to know who buys that product, who would want to buy this company, and what would increase the value of that company to that person, and what would decrease the value of that company to that person. And in doing that, you've got a business to sell.
Exactly.
It's not even just selling, because the amount of capital you can raise in loans, the amount of freedom you have within your business is often based on its valuation. And its valuation is based on what would somebody actually pay for this business, largely. You know, you can affect the value of your business in terms of the loans, the capital you can raise, the amount of credit you'll be given. So these are all vital considerations.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I've seen so many businesses bought and sold for my time in the hosting industry. I mean, the hosting companies can be sold left and right for almost no reason, just based on the pure numbers. But when it comes to a consulting company, you know, when you've built, say, yourself as the personal brand, right? Your customers are with you because they trust you. And so they might be spending $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 a month with you, but it's because they want you. They don't want somebody that's underneath of you. So it's either when you go to sell your consulting company, it's like you still got to kind of go with it, because otherwise the churn of the customers that you have is going to be so high that wouldn't be worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something out that, you know, everyone should be thinking about what their business is worth and to whom, because it helps you understand what it's worth to you as well, and it helps you understand that kind of process. It's easy to think, right, I want to build this business and I'm going to pass it down to my children. The reality is, a lot of the time, your children don't want to do what you did. That's how children are. They like to rebel. They like to have their own path. And a lot of the times, you know, they're going to get to that teenage and say, "No thanks. No, I'm."
That's actually become a big business. In the old days, when people owned a business, they passed it down to a family member. A lot of times nowadays, the family member doesn't want it. You know, they want to do something else. So you have companies that all they do is roll up other companies in a specific industry. Because like funeral parlors was a big one a few years back. Now they're all giant conglomerates. A lot of the funeral parlors, They're not small family businesses anymore.
Yep. And this is going to become a different issue in the next, certainly 10 years, because we are on the cusp of AI revolutionizing white-collar jobs the same way that it did blue-collar jobs. We're not quite there yet, but Siri and Google Now and others show that actually, you know what, customer services is almost on the point of being able to be phased out, largely. That instead of that call center with 100 people, you can have AI and 5 people to catch the ones where the AI can't handle it all. We're looking at assistance. We're looking at the point where we no longer need court stenographers and people to look things up. We don't need a lawyer who specializes in doing the reference work, you know, because an AI can actually have those entire cases on call much, much faster. You ask the question, it's got the answer. We are going to see this starting within the next, I say, 3 years.
Oh, it's changed so much. I remember when I was a chef, one of the jobs I had was at Hunter McLean, which is a big magazine company here in Canada. And they had about 15 employees that all they did was cut articles out of newspapers and a clipping service, basically. That's all they did. Those people aren't needed anymore. You know, that's all done automated.
Yep, yep. I know Ben has to dash off soon for work. I mean, it's annoying how those clients actually, you know, demand time and stuff, isn't it?
It is. It's so annoying. I love every single one of them, truly.
Well, it was good to have you join us. Again, unfortunately, Laurie couldn't make it this week, and Craig was unwell, so we don't really know where Kristin is, but I know that things have been... She's in transition as well, so it could be she's got no internet access today. But Ben, good to have you join us. Drop in anytime. Always
Absolutely, welcome. Absolutely. Thanks again, guys.
Thank you, Ben.
All right. Enjoy the rest of the week.
So, Manny, as a first-time visitor pretty much on this show, what have you been up to this week?
Let's see, Ammon, are you talking to me? I think I heard Manny, and then everything got choppy.
Yeah. What have you been up to this week?
This week I've been closing in on some ideas because, as you know, I've been trying to, I've been working on getting the right ideas about how to understand the customer's mind into one book. And so last week has been mainly about some of the theories of how desire is created in a collective. So that's been an exciting week. I think I actually sent you a message about that because I like to see stuff in math models, and I had found some models that explained well how you can track stuff like desire.
Yeah, there's some interesting stuff in that kind of line. I remember Ted link earlier this week, which was talking about studies on laughter, which is quite lightweight stuff in the end, but you know, some actual studies on laughter, and they said that it's very strange. You look up anxiety, and there's like 5,000 studies. You look up laughter, and there's 70-ish. You know.
I took a college class. It was about personality, and we had to write a paper for the class, and I decided to write one about humor. And the guy who taught the class didn't understand why I would want to do that. That psychologists didn't seem to like writing about humor.
It does seem to get kind of, oh, well, laughter, that just happens. We don't have to worry about that. But it's the more people have been looking into it, the more interesting it's become. The things that laughter does to your system is fascinating.
Absolutely.
It's also medicine is more likely to look at a negative health problem than a positive one.
People do generally, don't we? I mean, it's why loss aversion is so powerful. We're always more concerned about the negative than the positive.
Yep.
Yeah.
You hear, you do something, you get one thank you, that was great, but every person who thought even the worst little thing about it is gonna, yell it from the hilltop. That's the way I look at it. You hardly hear anything good, but any negative, it's always front and center.
It's a bit like people in the theatre. They put on a new production. The audience applaud. They get 8 great reviews. They get 1 terrible review, and all they do is focus on that one bad one.
Yeah. But that's the nature of how we survived as a species, though. You only need to get eaten up by one saber tooth, to be knocked out of contention.
Yeah, exactly. The danger, the negative always outweighs the positive. Yeah. But we kind of need to say, you know what? I don't know about where you are, but in my particular part of the south coast of England, there's not many saber-tooths around.
No.
There may be some around here.
And that's one of the benefits of negative aspect.
We do seem to be over-sensitized to danger for the living we have, and it's the wrong kind of danger, because we do have lots of different kinds of dangers that our sensitivities actually blind us to. The fact that we are so easily manipulated is a bigger danger to us than the wiring we've got is designed to cope with.
Yeah, and we tend to be distracted by the exaggerated dangers while the slow creeping dangers are eating us alive.
Yep. But enough about Google. It does seem that we are unprepared for so many issues that we are about to face. I don't know if there's a lot of things, I think, all through history. That old Chinese curse, "May you live in interesting times." The thing that's made that such a great one is it's always interesting times. It's a conversation I had with David Amerland a while back. We live in particularly challenging times is something I think every generation of humans ever has said, because whatever problem you're facing is the big problem, and every generation faces some problems. Our parents, our grandparents, their grandparents all had unique challenges because, life evolves, life goes on. And if it isn't the big international events that we're all so much aware of now, the local events were so much bigger because they were your whole world. So I think there's always been that sense that we're dealing with unusual problems, but I can't help but think that the struggles as we start to embrace AI, the implications morally and in every other sense about the singularity are pretty unique problems. They're not kind of things that crop up twice.
Did you see the study from DeepMind? Okay, so they do things other than teach computers how to play arcade games and how to win in innovative ways. So they're teaching them how to read the Daily Mail and CNN now.
Why? Wouldn't it be more smart to teach us not to?
Because those sites are formatted in such a way that they don't have to tag parts of speech. They don't have to specify what's an entity. They can let the computer read that stuff, and like computers learned from YouTube videos what a cat was. They can learn about entities and topics of interest and so on from the way that the Daily Mail and CNN are formatted, and use the features from they discover from those to read other pages on the web.
And I presume they'll be doing some data extraction on that, so very soon we'll have a lack of knowledge box based
Right.
on everything it's got from the tabloids.
It'll no longer be Wikipedia stuff. Yeah.
It is worrying. There is this, there is a reason that the tabloids have the reputation that they have, and it's not because they're really renowned for getting their facts right. I'm not sure I want an AI that turns to those as anything except this is the stuff that we should question, and therefore even official sources that say this, maybe we should be a bit more careful about.
Yeah, it seems to me like we're teaching computers to navigate an even more distorted reality, and that's going to amplify the people reading distorted reality from computers and spreading that even further.
Wikipedia has been accused at times of, spreading disinformation wider, faster, and there's a few examples of that. I think in the main, Wikipedia does a very good job, but I would never say the same of the Daily Mail. It's terrible. There's not one edition of that paper that has ever been printed where even half of its content are fact rather than opinion, hearsay, rumour.
I had that impression of the Daily Mail, even though I've never seen an actual copy of it. CNN tends to be fairly reputable.
Yes.
I think in people's minds. Yeah.
Yes. I think the closest would be saying Daily Mail is a bit more like the Fox network of news. We've got the BBC. If they're teaching it to read the BBC, I'm quite happy. The BBC take a lot of care over their facts a lot of the time, and they're very good at correcting things once anything is found to be questionable. The Daily Mail is one of those ones that it does its exposés, but a lot of its stories are filled with implications rather than absolutes, things that it won't be forced to take back, bits of opinion.
I think the selection wasn't made on the basis of the correctness of the information they retrieve from a source like that, but rather the way that it was formatted.
Yeah. It's a bit like, if you package a turd well enough, somebody will buy it. Unfortunately. And aren't we supposed to be teaching our computers to be smarter than us? Isn't that kind of the point? The thing I like about AI the most is the chance of creating an intelligence that isn't as limited as ours, that hasn't got the automatic psychological triggers and logical fallacies.
Okay, so if you're creating a seed set to learn from, you want some bad examples too.
Yes, but I need them marked as bad examples.
Right, well, Daily Mail might be a good source of those.
Yes. The National Enquirer, the Daily Sport, the Sun, the Daily Mail, certainly those kind of things would be there. And don't get me wrong, the Daily Mail isn't as bad as all that. Like I say, it's kind of the Fox network. It's not terrible, it's just not terribly good. It's certainly never cited as, one of the better sources. Its main audience is the housewives. And it's there to generate some gossip. It's really not there to educate and inform.
So can I move the conversation to something I've been thinking about for about over a week now? I thought about it in the past a little, but this week I come to a conclusion, and that all this guff in the SEO around the local ranking factors, I've been writing a paper on it, right? Looking at it closer. Something occurred to me. How does Google figure out what people are doing on another site if they don't have an asset there? Meaning if they don't have advertising on the site or some kind of JavaScript running there, they can't know what people scroll, what they did on that site. There's no way for them to monitor it.
How do people get to the site?
That they can tell. But what my point was, right, that when you say that they're measuring scrolling on Google, people, one of the things that come out of this latest ranking factor were all these behavioral things. They think it's a big part of the algorithm now in local search.
Terry,
Yeah.
what's the most popular browser now?
Probably just slightly Chrome.
Yeah.
Chrome and IE are running kind of.
Who built Chrome?
Google.
What does it do?
Yeah, but that means they can only watch what Google. They could be getting the signals from that.
The whole reason that Chrome is so good is because it constantly is polling. It was one of the very first to be pre-caching, to look at all the links on a page and be grabbing the probable ones before you went. And as it's passing, it does pass data back to Google. That is built into it.
Right, so they can only get data from Chrome.
Yes.
The data from navigation
JavaScript only gets its information from the browser. Google doesn't need the JavaScript. It gets information direct from the browser.
Right.
Yeah, that's only, what, 30% of the internet, maybe?
How big does a sample have to be?
Applications like Google Maps, which people use to navigate to places that they shop at.
Well, I understand that. What I specifically was talking about was implicit.
Yeah.
Right? Signals from a website are very hard for Google to A, even catch them, right? And B, actually do something with them. The only way that you could do that consistently is with Google Analytics, and Google have said they don't use it for that purpose. So
they don't use it for rankings. That's right.
Right. So,
if you notice, they've always said that in terms of individual. They have never said that they don't use bulk feedback for general improvements to algorithms, i.e. they know that, you know, a dozen sites in this all perform this way. You know, if they've got a particular vertical that behaves a particular way in analytics, yes, that data in aggregate, they've never denied that can be used.
yeah, but they can't really tell about behavior on a specific site.
They don't even care to worry about behavior.
Well, that's what I mean. That's why I didn't understand why it's such a big deal is being made of it.
Chrome isn't to do the same either, but it's actually worse than people realise, Terry. What can be done is that general trends, machine learning is all about big data.
Right.
And big data allows them to say, right, pages with these design elements combined, people tend to behave most of the time this way. Therefore, we are going to treat every site with these design elements in this way as having this behavior.
Right. That's not behavioral, though. That's not what they were talking about. That's more of an AI that was used. That was more about how, like a lot of Panda, that's how they did it, was using machine learning to identify elements on the page that were problematic.
Yeah.
And what were the characteristics of those elements, right? That I understood. But I don't understand how all of a sudden this is a huge ranking factor. Not only the fact that it's hard to collect the data. Anybody who knows anything about information retrieval knows those are very noisy signals that they don't really like to use them.
Terry, which ranking factors are you talking about?
Local. Recently there were 2 posts on local ranking factors.
David Mims?
Yeah, there's one David Mim on Moz, and that's one of the few articles I've read there in a while, and I also read the deep dive. And in both cases, they mention these things specifically is all of a sudden pretty important. I just thought, okay, how if they're going to do this for every site, right? How can they do that? They can't measure it on every site. So how can
these are best guesses from consultants who don't have access to the actual reality, don't have access to the actual ranking factors. They don't know how they work. They just observe things and make guesses. Right.
And what I wrote about, that's what I basically said was, think about it. These can't be the factors that they're seeing correlation and making it causation again.
The big problem was that thing years ago when Google said we've got 200 ranking factors and no SEO around could think of 200 ranking factors. And they've really struggled over the years, and there have been a few articles that have tried to posit 200 ranking factors, despite the fact that just 2 years later, I think around 2007, Google were already saying 300 plus. They definitely couldn't get anywhere near 300 plus, so they're still trying to work on 200. There are a few articles out there that have tried to identify 200 ranking factors, and if you read any of them, you'll see it does kind of repeat itself, and it really struggles. And this is one of the reasons, is that people sometimes try and guess what these ranking factors could possibly be, and yeah, they're miles out. They're a million miles out in some cases.
Yeah, that's this one in particular, because they were making such a big deal of it. It didn't make any sense to me. Still doesn't. I could see it as a signal to verify some other stuff, right? I see it more as part of Panda, right, than part of local ranking, right? That, which comes down to they don't really also understand that each website has a quality score, and that's really what they're seeing as the effects of these things happening on a website is pulling down the quality score.
I think a lot of people like to dismiss, or rather not think about, the historic data from the site as a ranking factor.
And a lot of people look at local search and think of organic web search, and they shouldn't be. There's no page rank input in there. There's no link value, and saying that there is not understanding the basis of local search, which is pure semantic web based.
So you don't think PageRank is even in there? You're not even just dialed right back as a differentiator between other things. So you first look at distance, but what if you've got 2 that are equidistant? How do you split those?
How prominent they are on the web in terms of mentions, in terms of consistent information about the business and their geographic location.
Yeah, to me, one of the biggest factors is location, and not the location of your business, but the location of the user, because that's one of the biggest changes that I saw in local search was this move from, more interested in the user's location than pinpointing the middle of a city and basing everything from that, right?
Yeah, it did get very specific. So if you are on the edge of a borough, a town, whatever, It used to be that Google Local, it pinpointed it to the nearest town and used the epicenter of that town as its localization source. Whereas now it is much more, it will have you to within a couple of blocks, and it will try and give you local data to within that couple of blocks. And in some cases, it's street level.
Yeah, I also found that it depends on the industry too. So if you were searching, for instance, for a marketing agency, they're more likely to give you things all over the city. But if I search for pizza, Toronto, most of the pizza places that are listed are within walking distance of where I live.
Right, and they refer to that in the patents as location sensitivity.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for a travel agent, you'll drive an extra 5-10 miles to get to a good travel agent.
Right.
If you're looking for pizza, you may not drive 5-10 extra miles to get to a pizza place.
You also can't get delivery from that far away either.
True. True.
So that's what I think that really, a lot of it is, they know which are really sensitive to location, right, and which aren't. And I think that has to do with their topic sensitivity as well. Those two are kind of linked.
Right, it's a distance, but it also could be whether or not you're located in an urban area or a suburban area. That may play a role too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I live in a borough of Toronto, like on the outskirts of what was old Toronto.
If you live in New York City, you're surrounded by pizza places.
Yeah.
If you live in Warrenton, Virginia, which is a rural part of Virginia, there are some pizza places, but not too many.
I think it always looks at the number of results anyway in determining, you've got to have a minimum set. So, it may still have the same algorithm for that rather than some of these factors, I think, switch which way it's going to answer, whereas some of these others, I think it's simply filters within the answer. So think of it like ripples. If you are in a busy location with lots of pizza places, there's lots of answers, so it uses the default set, which is set to a high sensitivity to distance. If you live in a rural area where there's less, it keeps going until it finds enough to put that pack together, so to speak.
And last year, Google came out with the algorithm update they call Pigeon.
Yeah.
And the guy Navneet Panda rewrote the claims on a patent about local search to include organic search and local search, and a way of introducing new places into search results as local results and as organic results, as a way of testing them out to see how many people actually clicked on those.
Yeah.
So they were sort of testing the waters to see, it supposedly caused more local results to show up on organic results, but it was testing those to see what people clicked on.
And that was the guy who wrote the Panda algo as well, Bill?
Same guy, yeah.
Then you could see he likes looking at behavior on a website. You can, makes a little more sense now that I know that.
Yeah, it does.
Talk to you while I was writing that. I'll have to rewrite it now.
It's always interesting to see, the myths that surround SEO, and there's always been lots. People do oversimplify a lot of things. People overcomplicate some other parts. As you say, imagining that Google is spending time going through the analytics of 8 billion websites.
Right.
They had their own analytics, right?
If that doesn't happen, and there's no reason for it to happen. But on the other hand, the things that they miss are things like, look, every penalty your site has ever had, algorithmic and hand, is almost certainly tracked somewhere. The ability for your site to get penalized and fix itself is almost certainly a factor.
When people search for a certain term, which site do they select? If they tend to select a certain site above other sites, shouldn't that site be ranked higher?
Yeah.
Oh, I really get the click analysis. I've known believe for a long time that played a big part in universal search, how they decided what elements verticals to put into universal search.
Okay, so with the answer box results, where they decide to start showing an answer box that features a certain place or certain answer, like how to knot a tie. They show a bulleted list. At the bottom of it, they have the words "read more." They're counting the number of times people click on "read more" as a way of deciding whether or not to keep on showing that particular answer box.
Okay. So when they added the read more to the local results where they were showing the 3-pack and where they used to show the 7, would they be testing to see if that 7 should go back in there?
It would be a way of knowing how often people were looking at those. Right.
Okay. Yeah, I believe for a while that they're not, like, just because they changed from 7 to 3 doesn't mean they're not going to go back to 7. That
right.
All this stuff, they test it and change it up all the time to make sure that what they think is going on is going on.
Yeah.
This is an interesting one that was pointed out to me the other day. Sometimes word origins are now showing answer boxes that show you which words have been put together. I won't particularly read this one out loud, but it can be quite interesting to see. It goes to a pretty deep level. If it's finding the word anywhere, it's doing this. And a lot of words, you just put word origin, and yeah, out will come an answer box that shows you where it's come from.
And the fun thing, though, Ammon, is when you actually start looking at the competition level, when somebody's competing for that same word against Wikipedia or anything else, and you start to see the fluctuations. Sometimes you're in the answer box, sometimes you're not. And then, depending on the trust factor, I think that Bill was talking about, what happens, and I think I'm curious, Bill, how does that work? When you start to see that fluctuation, what does that kind of indicate? Can you still actually make the changes to the page itself that's getting the answer box and uprank somebody based off of an authority that you're equal to?
I'm not quite sure I understand the way you ask that.
Okay, so say you have 2 people in the same industry.
Right.
And so equal value 50-50, right?
Okay.
And now you're competing for a page for an answer box.
Okay.
Now, sometimes you're in the answer box and sometimes the other person's in the answer box. So 50-50 spread, right?
Right.
What sets that variable apart, and that's where I think I don't know, is it the social identity or is it the identity that there's a trust signal in that authority of a long standing of the company?
Okay, so both are included in the answer box because they're considered authorities. But Google's looking at a confidence level that might be associated with the answer and say, we have more confidence that this one's correct. And it may also have another signal that says how important that answer is to the entity. So if someone searches for who is the president of the United States, they might say, okay, we want to show the most current president, the person who's president now. So that's a more important answer than George Washington, who was a president of the United States. So sometimes those answers that are shown depend upon the answer itself, how correct it is and how important it is.
Or how verifiable.
Bill, that another consideration is when they're flip-flopping from one site to another, they could be doing click analysis to decide which one will go there all the time too, correct?
It's possible, yeah.
Well, and that's something I'm studying though, Terry, too, because I'm trying to understand the landing page that we've had. This, in particular, this one, it's showing in the answer box. The page existed from 2012, and still is a valuable asset to a lot of people, and therefore it shows up in the answer box. But then a competitor right below is the switching part. Now, what sets that difference? I don't know. It's not a Wikipedia thing. It's a page. I think it's a page, and the ratio of the click-through ratio comes from a keyword from Google Analytics and also Webmaster Tools, Search Console. I don't know. I mean, that's where I'm kind of like going back and forth and toggling, okay, why do we keep going there and why do we keep leaving there? And that's not just like this one particular case, it's multiple cases that I'm studying.
It could be that in those cases there really isn't much to separate one from another, and therefore Google is flip-flopping on which one is more important at a given moment, and testing, because testing and keep getting the data to see if there is a significant over time, and it may take thousands and thousands of exposures before this works, that it finds, yeah, this one is better for the users.
Well, and the other thing that's a twist to me, every time this happens, the 3-pack changes. So we had the 7-pack, but now we're having a 3-pack. But every time something changes in the answer box, it also changes in the 3-pack.
Try reversing that. Now say that the same things that are changing the 3-pack are changing which site it's picking for the answer box.
But it doesn't change. If you leave the page alone, we've left the page alone for now 3 months, and there's been no changes to the page, but yet it still fluctuates, and that's kind of, again, when it fluctuates from
the internet is where the change is. Links change every day, people's behaviour changes every day, what's trending, what's not changes every day, what sites therefore are getting clicks that day are different and in the data set. So what I'm saying is, at the moment, Google doesn't see any benefit of one site over the other, so it is fluctuating back and forward, and the chances are that those fluctuations are based on other parts of the algo, which is probably what's changing the 3-pack.
Yes, I think you're right. That helps me a lot with trying to get through my head. Thank you, Ammon. I think I've got a better answer with that one. I'll come back with you later on that one.
When like, they can't really use PR to do that, to break a tie. So all things being equal with 2 pages, they pretty much have to look at their click analysis and, you know, when they go back, like for instance, if someone clicks through on that answer box to one site, spends 2 minutes there, and that is consistent, but the other site, they're staying 4 minutes or less, click back to the server. Eventually, they're going to figure out which one is the one that's going to stay there.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting
if PageRank is a vote for a page from people who write web pages and create links, well, click selection is a different level of vote.
Right.
Yes. And I think it's always been interesting to me, fascinating even, that Google is the one business on the internet that actually gauges its success by how little return traffic it gets. The less people have to come back to that SERP, the better it's doing.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think to a large extent, when you're looking at is this answer box successful, you're saying, did people find a satisfactory answer sooner, or even not have to click a result at all as a mark of success?
And search engineers seem to be doing SEO of their own. They're optimizing the search engine, and they're optimizing queries to give answers that people are satisfied with as much as possible.
Yeah.
Which is why I said that earlier about the read more links in answer box type results. Those aren't there because Google doesn't want to show you all 10 items in a bolded list. They're there because Google wants to tell whether or not you're actually clicking on that answer and using it, and it's useful for you.
Or doesn't see that real estate as being well used if it's not in a collapsible box, right? Take up too much real estate.
Yeah.
Hey, Kristin.
Hi.
Hey,
Mike.
I think in that case too, William, for Google, they really don't want to be flip-flopping between two pages. I think they'd rather have a static answer until they get a better answer. In this case, it looks to me like they see the answers as equal, and they're trying to break that tie.
And that's actually what I'm seeing too. And Terry, you make a good point, because that's, it doesn't matter what industry, it's that tiebreaker that makes the difference. And most of the people think that answer box is there taking away their traffic, but I have analytics on my end to show that it does not take away, it brings. And then if I can turn that into a conversion once they hit my site, then that makes a difference. But if I can't turn that into a conversion, I'm not going to pursue that effort.
For me, that's one of the SEO myths that I think has to be shot in the head and fucking buried, because it's so wrong to say that Google is stealing traffic. First of all, it's not yours. You don't own it. Google does.
Yeah.
So,
Terry, don't beat about the bush. Tell us what you think.
But, Terry's right. Terry, you're absolutely correct. I mean, here's where I think you're correct. Is basically a lot of myths, a lot of people writing content around this same topic, and it's gone on for a long time. But when you go back into your own analytics, I mean, when you start to look at your engagement, your bounce rate, your time on page, your click-through, your flow-through data, all these different things, the funnels that you set in your reports, your goals, if those aren't being met, then what are you doing wrong as a marketer? How are you engaging with your marketing team, and how are you working with the rest of your staff and educating the executives to say, these are the wrong things to focus on this, what we're trying to show you, and then you'll have better engagement, you have better follow-through, and the rankings just come. The people just follow.
Places that write about this stuff see that they'll get more clicks if they say Google is stealing your traffic than if they say Google is helping you. That's what it comes down to. And they don't care that they're misinforming everybody. Because when they say that, it's based on no data, no facts. It's what they think, and it's wrong.
Yeah,
Not even just the clicks, but also the links. Something everyone wants to argue with gets more links. It gets more people linked at how terrible this thing is than how good it is.
Yeah, I wrote a blog post about schema markup and how Google could use schema markup to eliminate some of the duplicate content they find on websites, because they have more certainty about which entities they're talking about. There's another patent I haven't written about yet, which talks about making changes to analytics to better track entities that people looking at on a website. And if two different pages cover the same entity, there should be a way of marking that and understanding it. That may be something that we move to at some point. We may see changes to how analytics shows on our pages that talks about what's on those pages, based in terms of what the pages are about. and the entities those pages are about. And marking the pages up with schema may help tell it that.
Well, as is not exactly unusual for us, we are running out of time before we're running out of talk. We will be carrying on in the green room, but for the live broadcast this week, that's it, and we'll see you again next time. Take care.
Y'all.